Welcome back to the deep dive. We're jumping straight in today.
We are.
The topic is, well, it's a big one. Diets, weight loss, all that confusion.
Yeah, absolutely flooded with info, isn't it?
Totally. And we're using the notes and research you brought us for this session. We want to unpack what your sources say about fad diets, those tricky misconceptions.
Right. Our job here, really, is to sift through that material you gave us. Try and identify the red flags your sources point out. Look at the common problems they describe.
Crucially, figure out the healthier ways forward they mention.
Exactly. Sustainable stuff.
Okay, so let's get right to it. Based on your sources, how do they define a fad diet? What's the core idea?
Well, the research you shared paints them as temporary plans, often really restrictive.
Temporary.
Yeah, and they grab people with these big promises like, super fast weight loss.
The quick fix appeal.
Precisely. But the sources really hammer home the downside, potential negative impacts on your health long term, often because, well, they're just not sustainable or balanced.
Got it. So speed and restriction are kind of the big warning signs flashing here, according to the sources. What other characteristics do they say we should look out for?
The material points out a few things.
Yeah.
One is drastic calorie cutting, slashing intake way down.
Right.
And your sources mentioned this can actually slow your metabolism over time. Your body sort of panics and tries to conserve energy.
Counterproductive then.
It can be. Another thing is cutting out whole food groups, like no carbs at all or zero fats.
Seen those.
Yeah. And the sources suggest that can lead to missing key nutrients. Plus, it's just really hard to stick to. And then there are those, wild promises.
Like 10 kilos in 10 days.
Exactly that kind of thing. The sources are pretty clear. Those claims sound too good to be true because they usually are, and they often come with increased health risks.
Okay, makes sense. So beyond the actual diets, what about the beliefs around weight loss? What does this research say are the biggest misconceptions people have?
Your notes hit on several big ones. First, this idea that crash dieting works permanently. The sources basically say, nope, ineffective for long-term results. Then there's relying heavily on supplements.
The magic pills.
Kind of. The material suggests their effect is pretty limited if you're not also eating well and exercising. They aren't a replacement.
Right.
And a really common one, spot reduction. Doing crunches for a flat stomach, your sources state flat out, there's no scientific basis for it. Fat loss is systemic. You can't really pick and choose where it comes off.
That bursts a few bubbles right there. Okay, so if the crash diets, supplements alone, and spot exercises are out, according to this research, what does work? What are the alternatives your sources highlight?
They really push for a more holistic view, long-term thinking.
Principle.
Yeah.
Huh.
Adopting a balanced diet is key, moderate amounts of everything. Proteins, carbs, fats, plus vitamins, minerals.
The whole picture?
Exactly. Regular exercise, too. The material specifically mentions both cardio and strength training being beneficial.
Okay.
Staying hydrated, just drinking water gets a mention, too, for metabolism and helping remove toxins.
Simple but important.
And they also bring in lifestyle stuff, like managing sleep and stress. Apparently, that really impacts hormones tied to weight.
Hadn't focused on that as much.
And finally, a strong recommendation in the sources. Seek professional guidance. Talk to a registered dietitian, a certified nutritionist, someone who can help make a personalized plan that you can actually stick with.
That sounds much more grounded in overall health. Now, your sources also listed some related podcasts, right, for people who want to explore more.
They did, yes. A few recommendations were in the material. Maintenance Phase, they're known for debunking health myths.
Heard of that one?
Also, The Doctor's Pharmacy, which looks at food as medicine, feel better, live more. That one's broader health science.
Okay.
Then Science V's, which explicitly pits fads against the research. And This Podcast Will Kill You, which takes a scientific angle on diseases and health topics.
Great list for further listening.
Definitely some good resources there.
So pulling all this together from the sources you provided, the main takeaway seems pretty clear, doesn't it? It's really about shifting focus from those quick, often harsh fixes towards balanced, sustainable changes that support long-term health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thinking about that contrast, the sources draw the risky allure of the quick fix versus the advice for steady, maybe professionally guided, balanced approaches. It leaves you with a thought, doesn't it?
Go on.
Well, considering what the sources say about potential health costs of chasing those unsustainable results versus the long-term gains of doing it thoughtfully, what's the real cost of impatience when it comes to our health? Something to chew on.
A really powerful question to end on. Thank you for walking us through all that source material today. It's genuinely helpful for navigating such a complex area.